When the Great Depression hit in 1929, life changed overnight. Families who once lived comfortably suddenly had nothing. No money, no food, no heat, no safety net. Yet, they survived. Not because life was easy, but because they knew hundreds of old-school tricks that kept them alive. And today, with rising prices and modern uncertainty, many of their forgotten skills are becoming useful again. So here are 50 Great Depression survival tricks that still work brilliantly in 2025, and every family should know them. Food survival tricks. They saved bacon grease in jars and used it for frying, flavoring soup, and greasing pans. Nothing was wasted. Families stretched meals by adding oats, rice, or potatoes to almost everything. They reused pickle juice to marinate vegetables, extend flavors, and preserve food. Leftover bread was dried and turned into crumbs for soups and coatings. They made depression cakes with no eggs, milk, or butter. Vegetable scraps became broth. Even onion skins, carrot tops, and potato peels. They grew survival gardens with potatoes, beans, and onions, crops that never failed. Chickens were kept for eggs, the cheapest and most reliable protein. They canned everything: fruit, meat, vegetables, soups. They invented the stretch pot. One meal cooked, reused for 3 days. They reused bones again and again, simmering them for days until every nutrient was extracted. Nothing was thrown out. Even apple cores were boiled into jelly. They invented mock foods, like mock apple pie made from crackers. Families swapped food with neighbors instead of buying at the store. They preserved vegetables by drying them in the sun, especially beans and corn. Heating home survival. They stuffed cracks in walls with old newspapers to stop heat from escaping. Windows were insulated using quilts, blankets, or even old coats. People slept together in one room during winter to conserve body heat. They heated bricks in the fireplace and placed them under blankets for bed warmers. To cut down on firewood, they cooked multiple meals on the same fire. They sealed doors with rags and cloth to stop cold drafts. They placed rugs over floorboards to block cold air coming from below. They burned corn cobs, dried weeds, or old furniture if firewood ran out. They kept their homes small on purpose, easier to heat, easier to clean. Money-saving strategy. They reused envelopes, paper, and even string. Nothing was disposable. People bartered, eggs for flour, labor for vegetables, sewing for repairs. They mended shoes repeatedly instead of buying new ones. Kids wore hand-me-down clothes for years. They washed aluminum foil and reused it later. People learned simple repair skills, fixing chairs, patching roofs, sewing tears. They made toys from whatever they found: sticks, cloth, cans. They saved seeds from every harvest, so the next planting cost nothing. Zero-waste household skills. Old clothes were turned into quilts, rugs, cleaning cloths, or patches. They made soap from lard and ashes, cheap and effective. They used baking soda, vinegar, and lemon for cleaning everything. Mason jars were used hundreds of times, for storage, baking, even light fixtures. Old newspapers cleaned windows better than cloth. They saved rainwater for laundry, dishes, and even drinking when filtered. They made clotheslines inside the house to dry clothes during winter. People reused jars, bottles, cans, boxes. Nothing went to the trash. They cut old sheets into strips and braided them into rugs. Life skills for hard times. They knew how to cook with almost nothing: beans, bread, potatoes, and creativity. They learned to live without complaining. Hardship made them mentally strong. They cooked in bulk to save fuel. One big meal lasted 3 days. They shared everything: food, tools, labor, hope. They walked everywhere, saving money and staying healthy. They grew herbs not just for food but for medicine. They taught children survival early: sewing, cooking, repairing. And above all, They learned to survive together, not alone. These Great Depression survival tricks weren't just techniques. They were a mindset, a belief that even in the hardest times, humans can adapt, improvise, and survive. And maybe these old ways are exactly what we need again today.